The next guy they tried to get to do it stepped down. Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen, that these people are not invincible? And so you're not going to have instant victory against these people. You're not going to get freedom like a Happy Meal with a 60-second wait out of a McDonald's drive-thru window. It is going to take time, but we are going to win. Let's start going to the Brzezinski video audio clip. And it starts slow, but it really builds up. Listen carefully. Here he is talking to top globalists and saying, we're in trouble. This is the biggest awakening ever. This has never happened in modern history. He's right. It happened in the Renaissance and the Enlightenment in the last 400 years in Europe, but never globally. They are in trouble. They are not going to be able to carry this out. Here it is.
Let me begin by making just a thumbnail definition of the geopolitical context in which we all find ourselves, including America. And in my perspective, that geopolitical context is very much defined by two new global realities. The first is that global political leadership, by which I mean the role of certain leading powers in the world, has now become much more diversified, unlike what it was until relatively recently. Relatively recently still, the world was dominated by the Atlantic world, as it had been for many centuries. It no longer is. Today, the rise of the Far East has created a new but much more differentiated global leadership, one which in a nutshell involves, if one can hazard, an arbitrary list of the primary players in the world scene: the United States, clearly, maybe next to it, but maybe the European Union. I say maybe because it is not yet a political entity. Certainly, increasingly so, and visibly so, China, Russia, mainly in one respect only, because it is a nuclear power co-equal to the United States, but otherwise very deficient in all of the major indices of what constitutes global power. Behind Russia, perhaps individually, but to a much lesser extent, Germany, France, Great Britain, Japan, certainly, although it does not have a politically assertive posture. India is rising. And then in the background of that, we have the new entity of G20, a much more diversified global leadership, lacking internal unity, with many of its members in bilateral antagonisms. That makes the context much more complicated. The other major change in international affairs is that for the first time in all of human history, mankind is politically awakened. That's a total new reality. Total new reality. It has not been so for most of human history until the last 100 years. And in the course of the last 100 years, the whole world has become politically awakened. And no matter where you go, politics is a matter of social engagement, and most people know what is generally going on in the world, and are consciously aware of global iniquities, inequalities, lack of respect, exploitation. Mankind is now politically awakened and stirring. The combination of the two, a diversified global leadership, politically awakened masses, makes a much more difficult context for any major power, including currently the leading world power.
All right, hit pause. Back that up, because then they go to the Q&A section, but back that up to that final point that he made about a minute ago, where he's talking about problems. See, and then he goes into global government in the rest of the clip. But here he is talking about the problem for one single power, for a global government. This is just amazing. Let's play that last part again.
Inequalities, lack of respect, exploitation. Mankind is now politically awakened and stirring. The combination of the two, a diversified global leadership, politically awakened masses, makes a much more difficult context for any major power, including currently the leading world power, the United States.
But the United States is the New World Order. And here's a question and answer to him.
Presentation, but I'm wondering, how would you rate the United Nations in helping solve some of the geopolitical problems we've had? Some people say they're not adding a lot of solutions, and some people even suggest we should have another organization internationally that can do the job that the United Nations should be doing. And even people are talking about one world governments. I mean, how do you view the UN right now?
Well, there should be such an organization. The word should implies that there is a kind of moral imperative or need for it. But it doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Because we don't have a situation in which there is a concentrated source of power that has universal reach. Not even America has that. So the United Nations functions well in areas in which it is possible to generate consensus. And that deals usually with elements pertaining to human suffering, or to well-being, or to health. For example, the Food Organization, the Health Organization, the relief agencies, or arbitration of conflicts of secondary importance, in which the international community can kind of endorse what the UN is doing. But the UN is not a world government. The UN, when it comes to politics, is based on a fiction, namely 190 states which are members, each of which is co-equal with the others, except for the 5 that have the veto right.
All right.
In the Security Council.
We're going to go to break and come back. But did you hear that? Can't the UN be our world government? And he says, well, it isn't yet, but we need one. You see? Why is Herman von Rompuy the head of the EU, and Gordon Brown and Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the UN, and Zbigniew Brzezinski openly talking about world government? Why is the CFR now talking about world government in their public televised meetings, something they've never done previously? Because now we can have a real debate. We've ignored them. We've said, shut up, liars. We've read all your documents. We've read your internal documents. We know what you're setting up, and so they can't play the game anymore because we're awake. For the first time in history, the planet is now awake. We can start having a real debate. Do we want an unelected, authoritarian world government running our society? Is this something that we want? Now, they always push it at the university level, and I've literally gotten thousands of emails over the years. I see it in comments on almost all our videos on YouTube and other video channels. It's always the same thing. I like Star Trek. I mean, they had a global government in that, and this is about world unity and the end of wars and peace. And humans went from hunter-gatherer societies to agrarian farmers to city-states to nations, and this is the next step. Do you want Chinese or Germans or Russians deciding what America does? No, you want to represent yourself. You want to have your own country with your own culture. Humans are tribal. This is what we do. I don't want to merge with the UN, with the 100-plus dictators and thugs that are involved in the 190 members. I don't want to be under their control. The Pentagon created the UN in 1945 to set up their world government. The Pentagon doesn't belong to America. We have to realize this. We have to understand that national sovereignty is a firewall against tyranny, against people like Hitler and Stalin. What would have happened if there would have been a world government body that Hitler could have gotten control of? What would have happened if he would have had the surveillance system we see now today? Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Think about what Zbigniew Brzezinski was just saying. Think about what he's pushing. Think about how they're now out in the open saying we're in trouble, our system's in trouble, people are awake politically, that's a bad thing. They know now their bluff, their scam, their spell, their mind control, the haze they had over people has lifted. And we're starting to have a real debate, and it's only going to accelerate. It's only going to get worse for them. It's only going to expand. And so now they're openly coming out and not just admitting world government. They're saying, yeah, we want to ban free speech. Yeah, we want to take your private property. Yeah, the government's going to run your health care. Yeah, we're going to start new wars. Yeah, we're going to secretly arrest citizens of all the major Western nations and let you disappear into a black hole. Yeah, we're torturing people. Yeah, we're getting rid of habeas corpus. Yeah, we're growing the opium in Afghanistan. Okay, you know we're growing the opium in Afghanistan? You bet we are. We'll put it on TV and try to preempt you and put a spin on it that it's good. That's happening because they know they've lost control of people's brains. They've lost control. It's over. It's over mentally. Now do we physically put it into action to take our countries back? That is the question, and that is up to you, ladies and gentlemen.